Okay, now we're going to take a minute and talk about different lids that's on some of these pots or Dutch ovens. And now your big cauldrons, like we were describing a minute ago, as a rule they don't come with lids, but we've made the lids out of sheet metal. You know, just take a pair of tin snips and cut them out and rivet you a handle in the center. It doesn't have to be real high tech, just something that keeps the leaves and different things out when you're cooking. But what we're looking at the moment is the lids that's on the smaller pots. And you'll notice we've got two different styles. Hold that for me so let me see the top side. Now this one here is just dome shaped, okay? And that's good to keep the pot covered, because you know a covered pot will come to boil quicker and will cook faster. And that's good. This particular design you'll use when you're using it in an oven, or you can also use it when you're on the fire. But what you can't do is you can't bake with that type of lid. Okay? If you want to bake, you've got to have one it's a flat lid with a lip around the edges. And what that's designed to do, you know, in order to bake, you have to have heat from the bottom and heat on top. Okay? Well, hanging it over the fire is going to put heat on the bottom, or setting it on the wood stove. But in order to get heat on the top, we have to put coals on top. Okay? So if you've got a dome-shaped lid like this one, then the coals are just going to fall off. So that's why this one's flat and it's got a lip around the edges. Now in a pinch, we have been places camping before and took aluminum foil and laid across the top of this and then rolled up edges on it, you know, to kind of get by when you walk off and forget one with the lip on the edges. So, you know, you can get by with it, but this one works very well. Like I say, it's a nice large lid. It's flat. It's got a nice rim on the top to keep the coals from falling off. So it works well. Now, this is one thing to bear in mind. Let's say when you put coals on top, heat rises, okay? So if I put coals on top, the majority of my heat's going up. Only a small percentage of it's going down. So what I'll do a lot of times, I'll take my lid and I'll hang it over the fire and go ahead and preheat that lid. Then when I go to put the coals on the top, what I don't want to do, I don't want to take a shovel and just reach down there and shovel up a pile of coals and put on top. Because what I do in doing that is I end up with a lot of the real fine particles, okay? And they'll lay on the top. And now the fine particles settle to the bottom, then you got your larger, coarser coals on the top, which are burning. Well, if you've got all that dust and fine stuff on the bottom, it actually acts as an insulator. It blocks what little heat that you do have going down from penetrating through the lid. So what I do, I'll take my shovel, lay it up near the edge of the fire, and I'll take my fire poker and I'll rake the larger, coarser coals over onto my shovel. Then I'll take and I'll place those on my lid. That way I've just got the larger, coarser pieces. They're going to burn longer. They're going to give better heat. And I don't have all the sediment covering my lid, which acts as an insulator. Now, one other thing I was wanting to show you on this lid here that Stumpy's got, on the inside they've got raised dimples all the way across. Well, I mean, you may already know what that's for, but just in case you don't, as steam and condensation comes up from whatever you're cooking, if the lid was just smooth, it would gather up and just run down the sides of the pan. Well, with the dimples, it keeps all the water dripping back down to the center of your food. You know, if you've got some pork or something in there, it covers it with the condensation and the drips coming back down more evenly than a lid would that don't. Now, one other thing I want to talk to you about, you've got to figure, you know, cast iron's been around for eons. I mean, forever. Okay, and when cast iron was designed and manufactured, most people didn't have electricity, you know, and really didn't have gas stoves either. You know, if you figure through the 1700s and before, when the cast was designed and being used, nobody had electric stoves. So, you know, we'll buy a frying pan now, we'll take it home, we'll put it on the electric stove, and then we'll have issues with it. Well, or especially gas, because, I mean, you've got so many BTUs in such a small area, it can be an issue. So if you'll stop and think that when cast iron was designed and invented, they weren't using electric stoves to cook on. Okay, they were using wood cook stoves or over the fire. So you fire, it's a different type heat. It's more spread out. It's, you know, not as concentrated. and it's not as intense as these electric stoves can get. So what I have found, like if I'm somewhere and I can't build a fire, or I'm in a rush, I've got a little 2-burner gas propane job that I'll use. Well, in order to use my cast iron frying pans, because I've got good quality cast, okay, just from a long time of looking and searching, but I'll have to take that gas stove and turn it down to its lowest setting just before it goes out. Then I can put my frying pan on there. And that takes it a moment or two to get hot. But once it does, I have all the heat I want to fry eggs or a hamburger or whatever I happen to be cooking. So bear in mind, it takes a lot less heat with good quality cast than it does a lot of these other pots and pans. So if you get you a good one, get it seasoned up properly, and we'll cover seasoning. But anyhow, cook it on a lower heat than you think you need, and give it a little time. If you're in a rush, make a sandwich, But if you wanted to cook something good, take your time, use lower heat, and you'll watch that pan will intensify that heat, and you'll have all the temperature that you'd ever want. So give that a try. On the frying pans, we talked about if possible to have them as smooth as glass on the inside. That's how you tell good quality steel. But now it's not going to be the same on your big cauldrons and your big wash pots. One, the way they cast them, and two, just the type of life that they live. They're going to be a little different. Now, pretty much every cast iron pot that I've ever run across of any size is always kind of coarse on the inside. It's not as smooth of a casting, and that's okay, because in a frying pan, when you're frying a pork chop or whatever, you're making direct contact with meat right on the metal. So, but in these cauldrons and wash pots, you'll have meat, vegetables, whatever in there, but you also have an enormous amount of liquid. And it's not like it's laying on it making direct contact, it's inside there incorporated with everything else that's in that pot, and with all the liquid and things, it's not as crucial for the inside of the pot to be smooth. And we've cooked with them, made from a lot of different manufacturers over a lot of different time periods. And for the most part, one is equal to the other. You'll find some that's a little thicker, takes a little longer to get hot, but they hold heat longer. So, and there is, a variation in them as far as quality. Once again, I kind of go to the lines, the thinner the rims that's on it, the better the quality of the steel. You'll find different shapes. We've got some that's straight on the sides, but coming up to the time, these pots would be doing laundry, doing cooking, using the colored dyes. So they in that time period, they probably had a specific design for each purpose. But you can cook in any of them, you can do laundry in any of them. But anyhow, so if you find your wash pot and it's rough on the inside, that's fine. That's fine. Just take the wire brush and the grinder we showed you about and clean it. You can do them with a hand scrub brush. It just takes longer. It is possible to put them in the fire and cook them. You can do that with pretty much any cast iron, but that's something you want to be careful doing. You want to put it near the fire, let the whole thing kind of get hot, and then ease it into the coals. When each particular part of the pan or the pot turns red, it expands, and the rust and stuff on it will turn loose. That's a technique. Just be careful when you do that. One thing you don't want to do if you got a pot that hot is get it near water. If you take a pot that hot and you go to pour water on it to cool it, that's probably the last time you're ever going to use that pot. Cast does not take good sudden changes. It's great for heat distribution and holding heat, but sudden changes and it'll crack wide open. So as long as you kind of halfway treat them decent, they'll last you a lot longer than you'll live. So anyhow, gather different shapes and sizes of pots for different uses or needs, and there are all kinds out there. But now, bear this in mind: when you go to store this pot, I never set my pot right side up in storage. Reason being, for one, it's going to collect everything that's in the atmosphere: dust, leaves, dirt. The most damage that it could do to itself by collection is collecting water. And the temperature gets below freezing, the ice expands and it busts the pops. So, you know, you can count that as a loss.